Oftentimes, we are blindsided by the sudden responsibility of caregiving. It happens in what feels like a blink of an eye, when in fact it's probably been showing itself all along. My guest today is Mary Lynch. She is a good friend of mine through the senior home coach movement. She is a Baltimore-based real estate professional with nearly 30 years of experience and, like I said, a senior home coach. And she is a passionate advocate for aging well at home. Now, her perspective is deeply shaped by her time as a caregiver for her grandfather. She sees it as, your home is your health, housing is health. And we go into a deep conversation about that today. So stay tuned, grab a cup of tea, and let's chat with Mary on this episode of Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. In today's world, older adults face major transitions like downsizing, relocating, or modifying their homes to age in place, all while embracing life after these changes. As a senior home advisor and seasoned realtor, Robin McCoy guides these decisions with care and thoughtful planning, helping create a vibrant future. Welcome to Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60 with me, your host, Robin McCoy. Mary, I am so excited to have you on the show today. This is going to be amazing.
Robin, you are a pure joy, and I love your enthusiasm.
So this is, for those that don't know, Mary and I met each other probably close to 2 years ago now through our senior home coach group. And we met at a conference in Wichita, and I've got a little girl crush, not gonna lie. I love me some Mary Lynch. I love your enthusiasm, your personality, and all the things that you are doing there in Baltimore.
Feelings mutual, girlfriend. And who would have thought? Sometimes I say, I've been to Wichita twice in the last year and a half, and not a lot of people say that. So
Now,
who would have thought?
it's not necessarily a destination point, but good things have come out of Wichita recently, right?
Fantastic, yes.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit. So you've been a realtor in Baltimore for over 30 years, and you've kind of moved your business as I have into, I hate the term the senior niche, but
Sure.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your history and then kind of what brought you to this point.
Yeah, so, been in real estate 3 decades here in Baltimore. Thought I was, extremely successful over the years, right? Handing out forever homes like Oprah gave cars out, back in the 90s, right? And so it wasn't until, I was slapped right into a caregiving situation where my loved one, who was my grandpa, but he was really more of a father figure in my life, like overnight, like most crises are, right? Like needed to come live with me.
Yep.
This house that he had was a 1950s. I'm Baltimore born and bred. And so when we talk about old houses, we're talking about 250-year-old houses, right? We're not
Right,
talking
right.
about the
You're
West
not talking about
Coast.
30-year-old houses.
Right, right. So his house that was built in the 50s, right, was never meant, the life expectancy was not 80s, 90s, and beyond, right? So it was never imagined that somebody in their 80s would be living there. And he loved that house, Robin. I mean, he knew every blade of grass, right? He worked in the steel mill here. Bethlehem Steel's a big steel industry in our Baltimore harbor. Worked there for 50 years and just cherished that house. And I immediately realized that you can love a house, you can have all these things that you've cherished for years in a house. Doesn't mean it's going to love you back, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Not
Doesn't
going to
love
love
you
you
back.
back. So he came to live with me. And of course, 20 years at the time in the industry. And of course, my home should be capable of handling all things because
Perfect.
I'm an expert,
I know
expert
everything. I'm
level,
right here.
right?
Yeah.
And so the man who I cherished, who deserved all the dignity in the world, was wedged between, like so many of us do, the china closet and the dining room table. Had no privacy, did not have a first floor full bath, right? I was a single mom at the time. I am pretty sure somewhere I am photographed as the poster child for Sandwich Generation at that time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Handling all kinds of things. And again, 30 years in sales, no medical experience, had no idea. Love, right? It was all about love. But at the time, second guessing everything, was very hard on myself. Wanted to be superwoman in mother category, in real estate category, in caregiving category. And yet, even though I always felt like I was very educated on opportunities and services, right, and resources in my area. I pay attention. I'm one of those people that drive down the street and I can tell you the 10 businesses that I just passed, right? I've always been very curious. And yet I knew zero about caregiving, zero about home care or, what aging in place meant or any of that stuff.
All that, right? I mean, and that has nothing to do with anything, any job that you've ever done. We, as the adult children of our parents and grandparents, nobody thinks about this, right?
Yeah.
Nobody says when you start caring for your parent,
Hmm.
you're going to need to know these things. There's no instruction book,
Nope.
there's no guide.
No guide.
And all of a sudden you're going, what do you mean I need home care, home health? Oh, I got to call Medicare?
Right.
What?
And
We don't know. There's just
we have no idea.
no idea.
And
And you
hopefully
never
we're
feel
gonna
and you never feel so clueless as you do in that
clueless.
moment. I mean, clueless.
Baby clueless, like absolutely nothing, right? Like, where have I
Nothing.
been? What do you mean this is out there, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you said about the manual, Robin, but our industry now, and I'm so proud to be part of this with you, like, we're going to create a manual. We are going to be
Mm-hmm.
those
Yeah.
resources. And so, that part for me was my grandpa ended up being put in having hospice services. And as we were leaving the hospital, they assigned us a local hospice company. Also didn't know that I had choices of hospice, just assumed that the hospital certainly wouldn't be doing this because of a financial agreement. They're giving me the very best person, right? It's a
Because it's
hospital,
hospice hospital. It's like it's like
right?
adjacent to them. It's
And
part of
why
them.
would you question, right? Like I did not know enough, and now I know. Question, right? Always ask, what are my choices? What other options are there? And so we were given, just unfortunately, we were not in a good situation. And I had this one hospice company for about 7 days before I started screaming from the rooftop. And someone in the caregiving industry said to me, well, you have a choice. And I said, well, where would it have
What?
said that? Was that on the flyer? Because the hospital didn't tell me I had a choice. So what do
Yeah.
we want? We want the best. I'm like, what do you mean I have a choice? I want the best. This man would have never, provided for me with anything less than the
Yeah.
best for my situation. And so I raised my hand and I said, who is the best? And that started getting into all of these different groups, like the hospice folks, most amazing people in the industry. Like, I could never do their job. But unless you're in that industry, my friends don't know you have a choice.
No. No. And that's you and that's what the mission of like even this podcast is, right? Is to educate people that there are choices and you get to say no, not for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
No, I
Mm-hmm.
want the best.
Yeah.
What is the best I can do given all my options and my choices?
Yeah.
Because I've already had to put them between the china cabinet and the dining table.
Robin, he's already in his drawers in socks with my teenage kids running around. We didn't have
Yeah.
doors on that room.
Yeah.
I mean, so the guilt,
So we've
right? The
already
guilt.
done that. So can we
Yeah,
like not do
yeah,
the worst after that, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. And so while you're going through it, all of the muck, right? You're questioning everything and why? And surely I would have known. And of course, what do you mean, first floor bedroom and bathroom? How nice would that have been? How
Yeah.
nice. And, he was 82 at the time. Like, we do this thing where we see this big, strong man that had me on his shoulders at Disney World, and we just assume that he's going to carry me for the rest of my life, right? And
Yeah.
so, uh, unfortunately, there's going to come a time in all of our lives where an accessible bathroom would be nice. And why aren't we talking more about that? It's really
Yeah.
not recreating the wheel, it's just sharing our experiences. And I'm hoping by saying this to others that they understand 10, 20 years from now that their loved ones are going to be in this situation. And maybe it would be
Yeah.
easier for them if they had resources. And right, there's
Well, and I
options
hope
that
that
we
our
have.
builders, as we move forward, now
Oh,
you have 200, you have 200-year-old houses.
mhm.
We have, we've got a lot of 200-year-old houses in
Yeah.
Dallas too. And hoping that because I mean, face it, when you said it, when these houses were built, people weren't living to 100 years old. My mother says every week, I just didn't think I was going to live this long. She's 89. Robin, I'm 89.
I love
Nobody
it.
knew they were going to live that long. So that maybe moving forward, when you're building a house or renovating a house or doing whatever we're doing with all our living situations,
Mhm.
thinking about that housing is and I don't know if it's you or one of our other
Yeah.
friends said housing is health. Housing is
Uh-huh.
health.
Uh-huh. It
So
is.
let's think ahead so that mom, dad, or yourself aren't wedged in between the dining table and the cabinet.
Sure, sure. And Robin, listen, I saw the television show. Like I know who shot JR, right? So like your Dallas 200-year-old homes probably can be modified. Ours are tall, skinny row
Well, yours are tall and
homes.
skinny. Ours are
Okay.
ours are one
Expansive
and two
more.
story. We're not a lot of
Right,
that. Yeah,
right.
like you guys are. Yeah, I don't even know what you do. Put in elevators? You probably can't
No,
even do
it
that.
doesn't
You
make
have
any
to
sense.
no,
No, it doesn't
no,
make any
no,
sense. And so,
no.
your builders there, I think, are better in this arena. Our builders are saying they're 55 plus, but they're not. They're not. And the 55-year-olds are moving in and then they have to leave at 70, right? So
Yeah.
they're
Well,
very
and we've got more
short-term.
space here, right? We just keep moving out and out. We're pretty much to Oklahoma on the north side, and that so we've
Yeah, yeah.
we've hit the Red River, so we can't go
Uh-huh.
any further that way. So now we're going this way. We got a long way south, so
Hmm.
we've got a
Yeah.
lot of space. But so talk to me a little bit,
Yeah.
maybe touch a little bit on this in Baltimore. So
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you and what the
Yes.
accomplishments that you have had since you have taken this direction, and
Mhm.
taking your experience and what you learned and putting that out there to the greater Baltimore community. You founded the Greater Baltimore chapter of National Aging in Place Council, and you have a huge group there, and I am
Yeah.
so proud of you. And now you're also working with the Baltimore Library
Oh,
System
yeah. Hmm.
Network, all of that. You were published in the most recent book of that the National Aging in Place Caregiving book that they put out this
Yes.
year. You are a published author there.
Yeah.
Just tell me about all the
Shoo.
things.
Woo,
You've
right?
had a big year,
Woo.
girl. You have had a big year, and I bow down to your greatness.
Oh my gosh, same to you, girlfriend. I'm a believer, and I'm going to tell you that at the time when this crisis was just, making me crazy and second guessing everything, I was absolutely being prepared for this mission. We sort of had this perfect storm. I was in my 50s, my kids were going off to college. I was questioning what I'm doing on this planet and what that looks like. I really got to, although out of sheer need financially, I was successful in this career on what most people relate, like, how many homes did you sell? How much
Right.
money did you make? Right. But each year, there's still a room full of people in this industry. And I was starting to struggle with how I'm different, how I can serve people best, how I can take my pop's legacy and turn that into something. All of those things that I learned that you have a hospice choice and beyond, right?
Yeah.
Were
Yeah.
things that I felt like when I talked to specific industries, they were still keeping them in the silo. And they would say, Mary, everybody knows that you can have an MRI in your driveway. And I said, well, not anybody that I know knows that, you know?
No.
No, they
No.
don't. And social media, right? How this just happens where almost weekly somebody says, "Oh, dad had a something, fill in the blank. Oh,
Yeah.
we were just diagnosed with this. Where is the help?" And so, how do you scream that from the rooftop? Because you want your lessons shared and repeated. That's what
Yeah.
we're all here for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, National Aging in Place Council, I overheard that on the call, the mastermind that we're on every day, right? Senior home coach, somebody said National Aging in Place Council. And I thought, well, I've never heard of that. And I looked and I was like, how is there not one in Baltimore? Like, are you kidding me? And so very quickly, I recruited and organized the troops and was able to put together the National Aging in Place Council here in Greater Baltimore. We have quadrupled over the last year. We are expanding like crazy. I think we're number 3 in the country chapter wise, but I have every intention of coming after Long Island. He knows it. Peter knows it. I'm coming for him. He's like, you're so competitive in Baltimore. I'm like, I don't care if I'm there
Yeah.
one day. I'm going to be number 1 for one day, and then it's okay. Then they
And
can
then
come
I'll
take
ride
me
that
down.
forever.
I'm going to get a trucker cap. I was number 1 and the date. And so,
I love it.
that there's so many unexpected um just opportunities that have come from this, and it like you said, door after door after door. So I joined
Yeah.
National Aging and Place Council, started the chapter. We immediately started doing really dynamic seminar series here in Baltimore, and so I didn't feel like there was anybody else doing something that made you feel good when you left, made you feel like, listen, I'm not an exerciser. I want to be an exerciser so bad. And every year I say, this might be my year, but I don't want to go to a trainer who says, you should have been exercising for the last 50 years, because I know that, right? And
Right.
so many of these talks say, no matter what age you were, you should have did it earlier. And we really wanted to come from a place of empowerment and hope at any age, no matter the diagnosis, no matter the age. We wanted to be positive. So quickly, we were signed up with a really popular restaurant nearby. They are very dedicated to something called No Senior Eats Alone. So quarterly, we have this big group. And if somebody comes in by themselves, we put somebody down at the table with them and have a discounted lunch. And it's a beautiful thing. We have a huge athletic club near here that comes to our seminars and does a quick break, just a quick stretch, meditation, motivation, a little bit of this, like, something to get you moving, because you never know. Some people, that's the only time they might have moved that week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Except to get
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
room and not. And so it really turned into just really ageless. When I first started this, I thought, oh, it's going to be a senior thing. We're really doing education that I think could be really used by anyone. It's the people I watch when they lean in, and it's like, what cooking oil should I be using? And they're like, right, what? I want to hear, right? Cooking
Well, and I
oil.
think people are, even at, whether they're 40 or 50 or 60,
Hmm.
they're seeing their parents, right? Or they're
Yes.
seeing what's happening, and they don't, their mind is, I got to do something now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that is my future. I
And
mean, I know
Robin,
that is mine,
yeah,
right? My mother is in her bed
totally.
for the last 2.5 years. She cannot walk. She cannot get out of bed. And
Yeah.
I see that if I don't do things today,
Hmm.
there's my future.
I know. Well, and the most beautiful blessing for me is seeing how my family didn't do it right previously and not making those mistakes for my next generation. And for my friends, my cohort,
Right.
we are basically like, okay, we're going to think about this. The kids have left. We have 4 empty bedrooms. What does this look like? We have a real housing shortage. And so many people have been in homes 50, 60 years here. They're using what, two, maybe three of the rooms, right? They're not
Yep.
going and, they're heating, their air conditioning, roofs are deteriorating, things are happening, expenses. And so just really trying to educate people on what options. Sooner is always easier to do it
Yeah.
than later, but at any time there's support systems,
Yeah.
right? That's what
Yeah.
we
And
are.
I love that you've got this out there where anybody can come,
Yep.
and you're talking about cooking oil to exercise to what can you do with your house
Yeah.
to making friends, don't eat alone. I mean,
Mhm.
it's all the things. It's all the things.
Well, and we want to make sure, I think we're at 40 couple members now. We want to make sure that if anybody reaches out to any of our members, that they are that community resource through National Aging in Place Council. Everybody is vetted and background checked. So, go to your estate attorney who's a member of our group and ask who's the best person to put in grab bars in the bathroom, right? You don't
Yeah.
want your nephew doing it, right? You don't
No.
want to have just a favor done because when you grab that, you're probably going to end up on the ground, right? So it's
Yeah.
got to be done
Yeah.
correctly. And that's where I feel like we can keep growing and then we're touching more lives.
We Are One Heart is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to bridging the gap between the needs and resources of low income seniors and veterans. Rooted in compassion and love, our mission is to provide housing, living assistance, and access to critical resources that ensure dignity and support for the elderly in underserved communities. At the heart of We Are One Heart's work is the belief that every individual shares a common humanity, a heart connected through love and care. We are committed to creating a future that honors those who have shaped the past by offering programs and services that enhance their quality of life. For more information or to donate, visit wa1h.org. That's WA, the number 1H.org.
So next up, we have doctors around the Beltway. We have a functional medicine doctor, a brain health. He does keeping your marbles. I think you might have had
Oh,
Dr.
Dr.
David
David,
on.
we're gonna link his show
Okay, good.
here on the show because he is
Yeah.
actually one of the most downloaded episodes I have. He is in the top 3 of my
Oh,
downloaded episodes when he's talking about brain health.
it's
Amazing.
fascinating.
It's
And what
fascinating.
HRT and oh, so this is so awful and tragic in such an awful way, but Baltimore is tied for number one in the country for Alzheimer's. And so Dr. David is in my area. And so he's doing 2 talks under NAIPC under his Keeping Your Marbles. We just next month are having an orthopedic surgeon come and talk about brain
That's
bone
amazing.
health,
Yeah.
sorry, bone, and what to do with that. You mentioned earlier the National Aging in Place Council book that I was lucky to
Yes.
tell Pop's story in chapter 1. So I've also been doing a author series around our area, multiple library locations, where the library generously, through grants on caregivers and healthy aging grants, they were able to buy copies of the book to give the people that
That's
attend.
amazing.
So that's been such a
That's
great,
amazing.
it's been amazing. And that's what I mean by one door opening after another.
Yeah. So tell me about your experience with the library because,
Yeah.
here's one of the things that we know when we are trying to do seminars or presentations or something like that. Sometimes, and I don't know what they're, and every library is different, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. However, it is difficult because you can't go in and sell, which it's not
Hmm.
our intention, but when you're a
Hmm.
realtor,
Yeah.
that is what is assumed.
Hmm.
And so you were able to have somebody finally listen to you and say, that's not what I'm doing. Here's what I want to do. And they went, oh. And then they just opened the door to you. So tell us a little bit about that.
Then it was floodgates. Well, it's interesting. For the first year and a half, I actually went in and booked the libraries under just a community partner. So in our area, I could pay as a nonprofit, it was a discounted rate, and I could rent the space, but the library was not promoting. Okay.
Right.
Listen,
Right.
I get that they've had some bad actors before, right? Like you have to understand they all come with like I didn't know hospice and choices, right?
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
know that we're not just one of the bunches, right? That's
Right. Right.
competing for a house sale or something. And
Right.
so I had multiple seminars where I took pictures and showed the energy and had videos and had doctors and made sure that folks understood where that, where our priorities were, right? And educating and advocating and not the ask. We really like to demonstrate the industry, not the specific business. So we like to
Right.
explain what move managers do without selling a specific move managers, explain what senior home coaches do, and still let them out of the room without signing
Right.
a listing contract, right? So, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it was, it was a while. It was demonstrating good behavior. And again, those doors just kept opening. The book came out. The library was having a caregiving conference. They invited me to do that. They were gracious in giving me a table at the caregiving conference and letting me speak. And then again, this is bigger than me. If this isn't God sent, I don't know. Within 24 hours of that, I get a call from my library contact saying, oh, by the way, there is a national initiative happening. We are looking for 9 aging experts across the country. There's some grant money, and I think you'd be a good fit. Would you like to apply? But we need this application in like 2 days. And I was like, absolutely. Like, of course I want to apply, not thinking 9 out of the country, Robin.
Yeah.
But good experience of just applying. Like, I didn't even know what the application was going to look like, right? And so I was like,
You just
sure.
say yes and then figure out the some big CEO. I can't think of who he was, but he like just say yes and
Say
figure it out
yes.
after.
I had been afraid of that that's been my motto the last couple years, but prior to that it was just that little voice in your head. Why would they pick you?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like 9, that's a little number. And so almost immediately it was granted and I was one of the 9, and the 9 I think ended up turning into like 12. Um I'm going to, it's next week. It starts on March 31st. I think that's actually 10 days from now. Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I hope it stops
Um,
snowing for you by the time you get there. It's
I
still cold.
know. I was like, it's apparently 6,500 librarians, American Library Association. And I'm thinking, they don't like tropical? I don't know. But,
Why are they in
nonetheless,
Minneapolis in
I'm
March?
thrilled,
Anything can
right?
happen.
Right? We have another senior home coach that's in Minneapolis. So
Yeah.
Christine Emick's there in the Mall of America. So I've never been. So I originally the big Aging Together initiative, and what they're basically doing is they're bringing these professionals from across the country together. They really want to expand services for aging, caregiving, all of that throughout the library. And so, I'm going to be there saying, look for your senior home coaches, look for your, right, National Aging in Place Council folks, look for those people in the industry that truly are about educating and
Yeah.
giving back. And, it's been so interesting. And I haven't, this is going to go on a whole year. They're going to be doing a ton of research. The end goal,
Love
of
it.
course, is to take this research and take it to DC and get
Yeah.
funding to put these things. But wow, what I have learned about the different libraries across the country, and some of them have a ton of resources. New York City, some of them are completely volunteer, like no one's paid. Like, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And yet, think back, right? Like, for so many people that we're hoping to connect answers and resources to, this is where they went for information. They didn't have the
Well, and
internet.
it's a safe place. You trust your library.
Yeah.
It's a trustworthy place. Um, People go. I mean, libraries, whether it's a small suburban library like mine or New York City,
Sure.
or Austin, Texas, or something
Yeah.
like that, the resources, people just, it's a trusted place.
Hmm.
People go there to apply for jobs, to teach their kids to read, to,
Yeah.
librarians should actually run the world. They know everything and
Yeah.
where everything and how to do everything. So that's my opinion. I love libraries. I love that this initiative is there that will help. Again, like you said, that's where this generation went to find
Mhm.
information,
Yeah.
and they still have that trust, and it's still that safe place to go. And most communities have one of some size, shape, or form.
Sure. And so, I had this realization. I was doing a talk at a library about 2 weeks ago, and I walked in, and this was one I had not been in before. I've not spoke at, and this is a community that doesn't know me as well as my community does. And so I was a little apprehensive, and I was walking through, and I was looking at all the books, and I was seeing all of the many resources and reading the calendars, and they have walking clubs, and they have knitting groups, and they have volunteers, right? Like, what a great place to be
Yeah.
able, a safe place to volunteer. And I thought, for 1 second, again, that voice, right? Like, what are you doing? Why are you qualified? All these books are here. Like, why are you qualified? But here's the truth of the matter: folks want to learn it in entertaining ways, educational, bite-sized pieces. They want to hear our story. They can relate that Pop loved his home, but it didn't love him back, right? They
Yeah.
don't need to read 10, it's a different way of learning. And that's where, when we started this part of the conversation, you were saying, some libraries might be apprehensive. They want to be the gatekeepers. And so anybody that really wants to be that community partner, start from a place of curiosity and contribution. Walk in there. What are you hearing? What do you need? What are the topics? I just heard that a big topic is dating apps. For seniors, right? They want to know which are safe. They want to know background.
Yeah.
They're curious, of course. And it's not just seniors. I was single 15 years ago. Plenty of fish was plenty of sharks. I mean,
I met my husband on eHarmony.
okay, I'm not hating it at all, but there is a level
There's a
of
level
like,
of I have a whole thing about the guppy
oh,
date and all of that. So
okay,
that's a whole other story.
okay,
But
okay.
you know, that one has to get through. But yes, there is a level of responsibility and safety
Yeah.
on, like you said, dating apps. Just because you
Hmm.
are 65 or 70 does not mean you don't want to go be social with people
Yeah.
and have relationships with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you come to the library because you trust them to
Hmm.
say, here's here's what we have found, right?
Hmm.
And they aren't
Hmm.
gonna, and they are gatekeepers to a certain extent. You have to prove yourself before you're gonna be able to be, you can rent the room, but if you want us to promote you
Yeah.
or endorse you, that's what I'm looking
Yes.
for, endorse you,
Yes.
we have to know that you're safe, you are honest, you're legitimate, you're all
Hmm.
those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're honored this year, through National Aging in Place Council. We became a community partner with our county library system as well as our Department of Aging. So we're at 19 senior centers, and we
Nice.
are able
Nice.
to spread the word across the library system. And so I'm hopeful. I'm looking so forward to the Aging Together initiative and what I can bring back to my community with that. And I'm just proud that we started that, and the library is doing so much to complement. And I almost feel like it's just going to be a rocket ship.
I love it. I love it. I've just been sitting back here like blown
Love it.
away. Blown away by all of that. And the truth is, things like this are happening all over the country.
Yes.
In little places, people are coming to realize that, we've all talked about it, that by 2035, there's got, everybody's going to, all the boomers are going to be 65, and all the,
Yeah.
or the Gen Xers, whichever way that works. There's going to be
Yeah.
more people 65 and over than under the age of 18. That's a
Crazy.
huge thing. It's a
Huge.
huge
Who's
thing.
taking
And
care of grandma?
exactly. Exactly. We are all destined to be a caregiver in our
Yeah.
life of an older adult.
Yeah.
And so we need to one make sure that we as that aging adult are not relying on people before we should, right? I mean, let's extend the our time before we need a caregiver.
Sure.
And those younger people need to know what to do when they are faced with it because it's coming.
It is. And just make the conversation, it's not that scary. I have
No, it's
college
not.
kids and I, sat them down one day at dinner because of this movement and just started talking about, I handed them both an advance directive. They were at different states. So, it's important to have some
Yeah.
understanding. And so for me, and I'm assuming it's a generational thing because, I talk to so many people and they're like, well, I don't know who's on my mom's deed and I don't know where her will
Yeah.
is and I don't know how much money. And I think a lot of that conversation has to change. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you have to talk about death and like stuff like for months. It can be one conversation at dinner and then the peace of mind that you're giving generationally
Yeah.
of, my in-laws, my mother-in-law has a car in her garage that was my father-in-law, and there's 5 children that want that car. Let me just tell you. I'm a cobbler and my kids don't have shoes because I'm trying to preach and they're not picking up what I'm putting down. You hear me? And so it's going to
You have to
create
draw
some
a name out of a
ripples.
hat or something, right?
Yeah, it's going to create ripples. And so
Yeah.
I just love the idea of, and I hope that your listeners are just thinking of one thing that they can ask a question about or think about, or, what does it look like for them? I'm way before my time. I bought a rancher for my 50th birthday. And
Good for
I was so
you.
thrilled. Part of it was because I didn't want all the kids coming back. Like, we did not need that big house, right? We have one emergency room. You each are allowed one emergency at a time. If two of you have an emergency, we're picking straws, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Or
I
you're sleeping
don't
together.
need,
Figure it
yeah,
out.
right. I don't need all of this room. And so I'm trying to be that person because believe me, I have friends, but I brought my baby home to this house and, one thing or another, they have these memories tied to this brick and mortar. And guys, the memories are up here. The
Yeah.
memories
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah. And I just again love your house. The what you said. Pop loved that house, but it didn't love
Mm-hmm.
him back.
Mm-mm.
That and that's what we have to think about. That's the nobody wants to think about getting old and not being able to do the things we've always done.
Yeah.
And yet, it's more likely than not.
Well,
So
and
what are you
denial's
going to
not
do today? No,
And
denial's not going to
denial's
help.
not making anything better, and
I
I'm
know.
I'm looking in here and preaching to myself right now that I have stuff in my basement, and when I'm 65, it's not going to be easier to get rid of than it is
Nope.
today, and yet
Nope.
blinders on. I try not to look that way when I go downstairs. So I think there's stuff that we can all do that our future self will thank us
Thank
for,
us for
and that can be health, that can be housing, that there can be so just
all of it.
conversations.
Well, and
Right?
that goes back to the 5 pillars for NAIPC, right? These are
Yes.
the these are the questions. So, Mary said, sit down. You don't talk about it all. Talk about one thing at a time, right? So let's
Hmm.
talk about, is it housing? Is it financial? Is it health? Is it how are you going to get around to
Sure.
transportation? What kind of social environments do you want to be in? These are just the five pillars of aging in place.
Yes.
And so if you can answer those questions, and the answers may change 5 years from now, and that's
Hmm.
fine. Nothing
Hmm.
is in stone, but it's opening up those avenues of conversation so it doesn't feel so awkward to say, hey mom or hey kid, I'm selling this house because it's not safe for me anymore. Or it's too big for me and I'm tired of heating and cooling rooms I
Yeah.
don't go in.
Yeah.
And
And
not
I
making that hard to have that conversation.
I think you know this, but I was conceived at Woodstock, and that's just a funny little side piece because that's
I
going to
did not
go
know
into.
that.
Okay, I was conceived at Woodstock, so it's rare that it's very interesting that my name is even Mary. But why I wanted to say that was because my mother was very much of a free spirit in that she was like, well, I'm going to let her pick religion when she understands religion. And I don't care what needs to be done with my body. Like, I don't want to make a plan after I pass. Like, I'm living on this earth and whatever happens,
When
happens.
I'm
And then
gone, I'm gone,
when
and
I'm
it's
gone,
done.
I'm gone, right? And so there's that mentality. And then I had my grandpa, who I cared for, who had every little thing, not only planned, paid for, right? It was all taken care of. And I have to tell you, I reflect often on both of those scenarios. And for those free spirits out there, you still have to give some direction to your loved one, okay? Because we are just creatures that like to put more in our backpack than we need, and the guilt and well, is that really where she wanted her ashes? Is that really what needed to be done? And those questions and concern when your loved ones are trying to grieve are not helpful for those that you leave behind. So, it's just something that I hear over and over again. I'm dead, but you still leave loved ones and people that care about you. So just have that conversation this week
Yes.
at dinner. Like, just pick up the
Yeah.
phone and say, I love that body of water. Go out there. Don't let the authorities see you and scatter my ashes. Right?
That's it.
That's great. Then you
That's
know.
great.
Then you
Then you
know.
know.
And
Yeah.
so,
I just, I love talking to you. I could talk to you all day, so we can't do that today.
yeah,
We'll have
yeah.
to do that again next time we're in
Okay,
Wichita. Um,
please.
but if you could say just one thing, and maybe you just said it, maybe that
Yeah.
was it. The have the conversation.
Hmm.
But what could what's one thing that we didn't talk about that you just like to throw out there for people to consider?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. National Association of Home Builders says that people at 40 should start thinking about where they're going to age in place. And yet last year, because of the current state of both supply and demand and economics, right? The first time home buyer raised to the age of 40. So you sit there and you scratch your head and you're like, wait,
Yeah,
my first home and my last home, like that's a lot to think about, right?
yeah,
But I think that for me, and because I have those 20 something kids, I still work with first time home buyers, but accessibility is really should not be a luxury, right? Even if you are a first time home buyer buying a house, consider who you want to visit. Maybe you're having a new baby. Can grandma get in and out, right? And I just want investors to think about adding that
yeah,
first floor full bath. I just want to rethink what accessibility means because any of us at any age and any time can need, right,
yeah,
those options. So for me, if it's first time home buyers, I'm talking about it. If it's 40, 50 year olds that are downsizing and still buying something with a lot of steps, I'm just mentioning it. You can buy whatever you want, but consider options and think about, is this home going to serve me at all parts of my life?
I
That's
love
it.
it. I love it. Thank you so much for spending us. We're doing this on a Saturday morning, y'all. So I appreciate Mary taking that Saturday to chat with me. And if you're in Baltimore, check her out. She is pretty amazing.
You know, I love you, girl. And anybody in Dallas that's not connected with you, they need to be ASAP. And I can't wait to see you soon.
Me too. Well, thank you too for joining us on another episode of Embracing Life After 60. Remember, hit that subscribe button so you can continue to not miss an episode. So we'll see you next time on Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60. I know that time is our greatest asset, and I appreciate the time that you spend with me. If you're finding the information on this podcast useful, please subscribe to the channel on your favorite platform so that you never miss another episode. Don't forget to go to our website where you will find additional resources, downloads, and coaching programs. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Relax, I Got This, Embracing Life After 60.